Morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Catherine Symes.
In the last few years, it's been kind of tough for all of us not seeing each other and seeing each other and then not being able to hug each other. And you know, I love to be the Hudson hugger. So when I was looking for something to read this morning, spring, everything, I came across this poem, which kind of hit the spot. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect season to give your love away. Don't wait for the ideal reason for thankfulness to pay. For time has a way of fleeing, of quickly skittering by, of strangely evanescing like cloudy wisp on high. Roses don't last forever. They lose their noble red, just of deeds unacted, just as thoughts unsaid. The gift of life is not book endless. Finite he did create. Today he bids us send our love. Tomorrow may be too late. So to all of my friends out there, I love you.
Thanks, Catherine. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Evan McCauley.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning, fellow Rotarians. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you will please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. And now to introduce our guests, Chris Barker.
This is getting back to like old times where we're having visitors again. So I'm going to ask Barbara Marshall to please stand. So Barbara recently moved back to Hudson. She, for some time, lived in Three Rivers, Michigan, where she was a Rotarian there. So if we'd all give Barbara a warm Rotary welcome, please.
Thank you, Chris. And I have one announcement before I introduce our president. Labor Day, that's what it was last year. Memorial Day Parade is coming up. It's only a month. So I will need 3 volunteers, 1 to carry the flag and 2 to carry the Rotary banner in front of my truck. And we will have the truck loaded with scholarship recipients this year, which will be fun again. So just think about it. Let me know in the next couple of weeks if you would be willing to do that. Thank you. And our president, Pat Shearer.
Thank you very much, Ron. I hope everybody had a great summer break and is ready for fall, because it appears as though Mother Nature has decided summer is over. So our quote to start our meeting today: beauty surrounds us, but usually we need to walk in a garden to know it. Aristotle. April 30th in the morning, we have Club Service Day. We have 2 opportunities for service for you on the 30th. Those that, if spring returns, may want to be at the Pollinator Garden at Ellsworth Hills in the morning. But also we have an opportunity with for the PTO, Hudson PTO at the high school for the pancake breakfast. If you're interested in participating in the Pollinator Garden, please see Marilyn today. If you're interested in helping out at the pancake breakfast, there's an online link in our newsletter, or James probably can help you in the back.
I just wanted to add that we heard at the last meeting that we really need help with servers at the pancake breakfast. So just adding a plea if you're available on Saturday morning.
And if we get our weeding and our flower bed preparation, we can go over to the pancake breakfast after we're done at the pollinator garden and partake in some pancakes and those kind of things as well. So please look at your calendars for the 30th and let us know if you can help with one of those two large projects that we've got going on. Any Rotarians interested in serving as a trustee on the club board should notify myself or Ron Strobel today. We have our elections coming up next week, and we have one spot yet to fill for a trustee position. So if you're interested in potentially serving in that role, please let me know. Jamie Kuzman, one of our service learning teachers, will be here immediately after our meeting today. On May 13th, they're going to be having a program at the high school where they need some Rotarians to help out. He's going to have all the information packets and be able to answer all of your questions a lot better than I can. So I asked Jamie to be here at the end of today's meeting. He'll be in the back of the room. He'll have the packets for you to read some of the stuff that the students have prepared so that you're ready to go to the high school on the 13th. So if you're interested on Friday the 13th, it is Friday the 13th. So if you're interested in helping out that morning, stay after and make sure you have an opportunity to see Jamie. There will be a club foundation meeting today, immediately following to our regular club meeting. And then I have a little bit of some good news. You remember back a couple of months ago, we were collecting money for the van to help with the Afghan refugees. I'm proud to tell you that the $50,000 has been raised and the van has been purchased. So they'll have that van to help with moving the Afghan refugees to their language classes and to their other things that they need to be able to get to. So that's absolutely great stuff. Marilyn, would you introduce our guest speaker today?
And again, given the microphone, I am going to talk a bit about the gala. It is time for three things to happen. Number one, purchase your tickets. Number two, invite your friends. Number three, secure those donations. It is that time. We're down to crunch time. We're starting to load things onto the GiveSmart website, and it's time to kind of ramp it up and get excited about this event. Remember, May 20th. So the sooner I get things, the better off we are. Yes, James.
One additional thing. So we're trying to put together a cuisine calendar, 12 donations of $100 or more from restaurants or eating establishments that would go into the auction, $1,200 worth of eating. So if one of the donors that you're talking to is a restaurant and they're donating $100 or more, let me know so we can include them. And it'll be extra publicity for that, obviously, for the restaurant.
This year also, we're trying something new. We're going to have a bourbon basket. So we're collecting fine bourbons, unusual bourbons, and hopefully we'll entice a few people there to bid this thing up. We also will need volunteers the night of the program. We do need to prepare a slide presentation for showing during dinner. We need volunteers for the gifts set up, and we need volunteers at the end of the evening so that we can get all of the gifts distributed to the proper people and everybody on their way quickly. So just keep in mind that those opportunities are coming. We will have a sign-up sheet next week for those things. I'd like to remind you that on July 1st, 2020, it was Dan Williams' birthday, and John Adams interviewed him. If you go to the YouTube and look for the Rotary Club of Hudson for July 1, 2020, and go to 15 minutes into the program, that is when the 10-minute segment with Dan Williams starts. It's wonderful. He is kind, he is laughing, he is hopeful for the future. And I would urge you to take a look at that. Yesterday was the 200th anniversary of the birth of Frederick Law Olmsted. He was instrumental in leading the movement to create public places, spaces, and parks. It is only fitting that today we're going to be learning about Stan Hewitt and its lovely outdoor gardens, magnificent indoor spaces, and the programming that they have scheduled for the upcoming season. Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens is one of the most important remaining examples of an American country estate built during the industrial age at the turn of the 20th century. It was home to F.A. Seiberling, the co-founder of Goodyear Tire and Rubber, and his family. Jennifer McDowell is the Director of Public Programs at Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens in Akron. She previously oversaw the program departments at both the Cleveland Botanical Garden and the Great Lakes Science Center. So this is a really good fit. She's been a staff member there since 2016, and her job entails coordination and execution of larger programs and events at the state, including collaborative programs with community partners. She holds a degree in biological sciences from the University of Notre Dame. She's also a certified interpretive guide through the National Association for Interpretations and recipient of the Great Lakes Regional Meritorious Service Award. Jennifer is passionate about working with Ohio youth. She serves as an operations associate for the All Ohio State Fair Band at the Ohio State Fair in Columbus for over 25 years, and she's an organizational leader in 4-H youth development in Lorain County. And that's where she and her husband, Andy, remember Andy talked with us in 2021 about the O'Brien Preserve. And so they are good friends of our Rotary Club. So Jennifer, tell us what's going on.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, Marilyn. And yes, it was a small world when Marilyn and I realized that my husband, Andrew, had come and spoken to you all. So it is nice to know that the Western Reserve Land Conservancy now has, they have possession now of the O'Brien Preserve. So it's nice to see things moving forward with that. So I am here to tell you a little bit about Stan Hewitt, and I know many of you have visited, and maybe there's some folks who haven't yet been to the estate. So I'm hoping to share some wonderful insights about what we have going on. And I'm going to bring up my presentation, and I hope that you can all see that on your screen. And this season,
we can see it very well.
Thank you very much for that confirmation. All right, great. So this season at Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens, we are focusing on a theme of entertaining, and we're going to be focusing and telling people the story of some of the elaborate parties that the Seiberlings hosted at the estate, but more importantly, all the work and effort it took of the domestic staff to make those events happen. So it's a two-part exhibit that you'll see when you visit the house this year. One of the questions that I often get for people who may not be too familiar with Stan Hewitt Hall is, who is Stan? So I don't know if that's a question that you've heard before, but as you heard Marilyn mention, Stan Hewitt Hall is actually the former estate of Franklin Augustus Seiberling. So why the name Stan Hewitt? That is because it means stone quarry in Old English, and Stan Hewitt Hall, Stan Hewitt in Old English, was built on a stone quarry. So a little bit of information if you weren't aware of that. F.A. was the co-founder of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. He founded the company with his brother, C.W. Charles, and they named the company after Charles Goodyear, who invented the process of vulcanization of rubber. And F.A. was the president until 1921. So there on the left is C.W. and F.A. And then on the right is Gertrude Penfield Seiberling. So Stan Hewitt Hall was the family home of Gertrude and F.A. They had six living surviving children, 21 grandchildren, and one of the most famous grandchildren in our area would be John Seiberling, the congressman who was instrumental in the formation of the national park as well. So Stan Hewitt was the family home for 40 years. It was built between 1912 and 1915. FA passed away in 1955, and in 1957, the family transferred the estate and pretty much the collection to a family foundation so that it could become a nonprofit museum. So we are a National Historic Landmark accredited by AAM, and we are dedicated to the preservation, restoration, and interpretation of the Seiberling family legacy. Above the door, if you come to tour the estate, you'll see this, non nobis solum, which means not for us alone. The Seiberlings were instrumental in the community. They were very philanthropic. And just as their home was open to so many events for the community while they lived there, that is what it is today. So we like to live that mission. It's a Tudor revival mansion. They actually did go to England with their architect, Charles Schneider, to visit the English influences that are all seen in Stan Hewitt. And when you look at pictures of the Compton or Ockwells, you can really see the similarities with Stan Hewitt and its architecture as well. So once again, Charles Schneider was the architect, and Marilyn was talking about the anniversary of Frederick Law Olmsted. He was a mentor and teacher for Warren Manning, who is the landscape architect for Stan Hewitt Hall. And I'm going to focus a little bit on some of the gardens as well. And you'll see those Olmsted influences in our gardens, just like Frederick Law Olmsted designed the Biltmore estate as well. And the interior designer was Hugo Huber. So we'll show you some of those indoor spaces. Here's some fun facts. It's always nice to know. 65 rooms, 18 bedrooms, 23 fireplaces, 21,455 panes of glass in this estate. And if you were to build it today, it would be over $110 million. So it is beautiful, and so many technologies involved as well. For back in 1915, they had their own phone system, a central vacuum system. So it is some really neat things to see hidden in our nooks and crannies if you take one of those tours. Here's oops, sorry about that. The tower landing is a beautiful staircase, and those stained glass is kind of like right there over my shoulder there. So we have the beautiful dining room. So all these spaces where they hosted their elaborate parties as well. This is the great hall that you'll walk into, and a solarium where they would play card games, and it has almost like a Chinese influence. Here is the music room where a lot of the parties were held. This year, we actually have the music room set up similar to Irene Seiberling's wedding. So Irene Seiberling was the oldest surviving child of F.A. and Gertrude, and she stayed on the estate. She passed away in 1999, and she was just shy of her 108th birthday. But she was married here in the music room, so it's set up similar to what it looked like for her wedding at Christmas. We have a library, absolutely beautiful. And if you head downstairs, you might actually see the Plunge. So the Plunge is a very interesting indoor pool, 8 feet deep. And so we just restored some of the changing rooms that are right next to the Plunge. So once again, a nice opportunity to see something that's hidden and tucked away during a Nooks and Crannies tour. So not only is the manor on the estate, the manor hall, but they do have several other buildings on the estate. It used to be about 3,000 acres. Today we are about 70 acres. And this is the carriage house. This is where the chauffeur would live, and visiting chauffeurs. Here's a picture of it back in its heyday. So the stables were on the left side in this picture, and there was actually a garage on the right side of the picture. There's also a conservatory, and the building on the right in this photo is a butterfly house. So that was not historic to the estate, but the butterfly house is a nice feature that folks love to visit with the pollinator garden. And we do have butterflies in there probably late June through early September. But here's a nice picture of some of the gardens with the conservatory, and the building in the back is the gardener's cottage. So that's where the gardening, our gardening staff have their offices in there now, but back in the day, that's where the gardeners would live, the domestic staff. Here's a picture of the great garden and that conservatory back in 1916. So another building on our property is the Gate Lodge, and this is the first building you see when you enter the front gates. And the Gate Lodge was where the superintendent used to live. Later on, Fred Seiberling and his wife Henrietta lived in this space, and Henrietta Seiberling actually brought together two known alcoholics, Dr. Bob and Bill W., for what turned into the very first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. So this is a very important building on our estate. We celebrate Founders Day the second weekend in June with the city of Akron. And this is a time when our folks in sobriety come and celebrate sobriety and celebrate this very first meeting and the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous here at Stan Hewitt. So that's a pretty special place. Here it is back in 1917. And Irene Seiberling, the eldest child who I mentioned before, she actually lived in this space in the late 90s. So here is our layout here with our gardens and the house. The manor house is actually at the top of this picture, but I'm going to show you more of a picture map right here to give you a little bit of the layout. So once again, the Gate Lodge is in the bottom left corner of the screen. So that's where you would enter at the front gates and go down a very long drive that goes up to the manor house, which is more toward the top of the image. And then right now, the carriage house, we have a parking lot near there. So as a guest, you'll park in the parking lot. It used to be the paddock where the horses were. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the landscape. So this is a picture of our West Terrace. So this is behind the manor house here. And we have some interest. I want to talk a little bit about the architecture going into the landscape architecture, once again, celebrating Olmsted and Warren Manning. So this is called the North Porch. And the picture on the left is taken from the door of the house, looking down the North Porch and into the very iconic birch tree allée. And then the picture on the right is from the allée, looking to the front door of the house. And here is that birch tree allée, absolutely gorgeous, that goes into a landscape with the tea houses I'm going to show you in a little bit. So this is a very popular space and a very popular bridal wedding aisle. So this is when folks get married at Stan Hewitt. Often the brides do walk down this beautiful allée. It's about 550 feet going toward the north. So on the other side, on the south side of the property, this is the South Terrace that you're looking at. That goes into the music room that I showed earlier. And so there's a plane tree allée off of this side of the house, the south side. And it has some lovely rhododendrons that unfortunately are not in bloom right now. It looks a little more like this, looking down into 650 feet toward the south. So on this image, this is the plane tree allée that I was showing you before that leads to the South Terrace where the music room is. And this is the birch tree allée going toward the north there. But the interesting thing that I want to tell you is when you are in Stan Hewitt Hall, I mean, the way that Charles Schneider and Warren Manning worked together, there is one spot right there in the house. It's called the round room, and it leads right into the music room. It is the one spot in the house where you could stand and look down both allées straight through. So make sure you check that out if you come on a tour. It's pretty fascinating. So once again, here's that beautiful West Terrace landscaped. This is what it looked like back in the day, overlooking the valley, back when the Seiberlings had more property. A lot of this has become part of the Summit Metro Parks and also neighborhoods back there. This is a similar image taken from the roof as well of the West Terrace, leading out onto the overlook right here. And the interesting thing, once again, about the architecture and the landscape architecture coming together, the house was positioned so that this is from that overlook looking at the house. But during the summer solstice, the sun will set directly between the trees across the overlook and through the back door and the front door of the manor house. So that's also a pretty incredible experience. So we do have a grape arbor going toward the conservatory. Here's a picture of the entire great garden. Look from the roof, and you can see the conservatory in the top right corner there. So in the great garden, of course, we have a beautiful rose garden. Here's some of, they're not in bloom right now, but they will be when it comes summer. So beautiful rose garden, even some sculptures. Sorry about that. The Dell is a beautiful wildflower garden. I am going to show you a couple images of what's blooming now in the Dell, also a nice popular wedding spot. The English garden is an enclosed garden. It was one of Gertrude Seiberling's favorite, and it's one of the few remaining Ellen Biddle Shipman gardens that is on public display. So that's pretty special. Our Japanese garden by Atsuka. There it is back in the day, and here's the waterfall right here. So a very tranquil area to stroll through during your visit to the gardens. We do have a perennial garden off of the West Terrace there. Not in bloom yet. And then those tea houses. So the Birch Tree LA actually ends at these beautiful tea houses that then overlook a lagoon. And James and I were talking earlier about the Shakespeare Festival. So they actually do their performances down in that lagoon area in the summer. So here's a look at those beautiful tea houses. Underneath the tea houses were some changing rooms because the Seiberlings would actually use the lagoons for their outdoor recreation, including swimming and ice skating and canoeing. There's a couple pictures of the beautiful bridges there. And I did want to share a little bit because obviously there's no other better portraits than those that were painted by Gertrude Seiberling of the estate. She was a very incredible artist. She picked painting back up in her 60s, and we have an amazing collection of her paintings, many of which are on the estate. Here she is painting the carriage house. But for example, here is the front of Stan Hewitt Hall, her picture, and that is of the music room right there. So I just wanted to show you some of her images. I know it feels like snow. We were talking about the weather earlier, but here's a beautiful painting of the breakfast garden that she did. And I did take this picture in the winter last year just to make sure that I could match the design. So absolutely wonderful captures of the estate. This is on the West Terrace, a winter scene, and you can see even the shadows that she painted. So we kind of caught it at about this. I caught the picture at the same time. This is out her bedroom window, overlooking that overlook to the west there. So here's an image of the West Terrace. The landscape looks a little different. Here's a painting that she did of the plane tree LA with the rhododendrons in bloom. The picture I couldn't catch with the rhododendrons, but here's a lovely picture of the English garden as well. So we love that we still have these paintings and they're available on display in the manor house. So some newly added features, of course, during a visit that would not be historic to the estate at the time, but we do have some family playscapes, this beautiful play garden with a little car and a small carriage house playhouse for the kids. They love to visit that. And then some outdoor exhibits we call Homes of Nature. So that's a spider web that the kids are on. And to give you an idea of what's in bloom right now, if you come visit, I took these pictures yesterday. So we do have some daffodils, lots of daffodils and bulbs. Our team plants thousands of them, maybe over 40,000 bulbs on the estate. So amazing to see. The apple trees are starting to bloom and crabapple trees. There's still some helleborus around the property that are popping their color. They look beautiful. In the Dell, I mentioned the wildflower garden. So white trillium, the spring beauties, and wild geranium, and of course, lots of bluebells right now. So if you come now in the spring, you'll get to see that beautiful color. This is the drying yard. So this is where they would hang their laundry, but we do plant the garden around it. So the tulips just popped the other day. They absolutely look gorgeous. And then I was fortunate enough to find this little friend. This is a juvenile great horned owl that I was just so pleased to see right off of the South Terrace area. So that was a treat, and a few of us staff went out and watched him for quite a long time. He's quite the cutie over there enjoying the estate. Some azaleas over by the tea houses in the lagoon area. Once again, lots of tulips. And then I wanted to get into some of our spring and summer programs. So we do offer yoga on the West Terrace, which is a very relaxing class in the morning on Sundays, select Sundays. And we also celebrate Vintage Days, where we do have some additional programming that takes place on Sundays that's included with admission, but we have a resident vintage baseball team, the Akron Black Stockings. So they play baseball on the Great Meadow. Usually, I think this year they're going to start in July because we're doing some maintenance work on the meadow this spring. So they'll be here for a 2-day Akron Cup where other vintage baseball teams come and play. And you'll see occasionally some living history actors. So they portray the domestic staff, friends, and business associates of the Cyberlings, and you can interact with them and learn what life was like in the 1920s as they were in Stan Hewitt Hall. We do have a couple of car shows. Our popular Father's Day car show is coming up in June. So that's on Father's Day, and over 400 classic, antique, and collector cars. Always a popular event at the estate. And this is our 64th year doing this car show. And it's amazing when you go back in time and look up some of the history. The Cyberlings they've been having cars come to the estate with different versions of the Ohio Region Classic Car Club of America back in the late 50s when the estate became a museum. And then we have a Multabella auto show in September, which brings a little bit more of the exotic cars to the estate. We do have programs for our lifelong learners. So everything from photography classes. There's a class called Healthy Home, Healthy Life coming up in June, which talks a little bit about how the Cyberlings use the estate for health and wellness. And then they do education group programs for adults, including questing and geocaching. Butterflies and Blooms walks around the gardens and learns about butterflies too. And they do a butterfly release program in the fall. So those are some nice opportunities. We do have an Off the Vine event, which is a wine tasting in the gardens in July. Very popular and obviously a great place to be on a summer evening. And then our very popular Ohio Mart, which is a fall artisan festival, takes place the first full weekend in October. So that's October 6th through 9 for Ohio Mart this year, and a great group of volunteers that help put that together from our auxiliary board. And that program's been going on for about 54 years now. Murder in the Mansion is a volunteer-led program that takes place in the estate. So if you want to actually participate in an event in the music room, for some reason, somebody always dies. I can't really explain that, but this takes place in October. We have a great group of volunteers that they're putting together the story now. They've been working on it for a few months already, and that's always a fun event. And then closing out our season in December, November and December, is our Deck the Hall, our seasonal light display. The Manor House is dressed up for the season with, this year it'll be classic decorations inside. So lots of lights outside, over 1 million lights, and a very fun experience. So at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions. I'm really excited about the season. I hope that many of you can come out and see the beautiful gardens and take maybe a Nooks and Crannies tour. They're doing some new exhibitry inside as well to tell those stories of the domestic staff. And actually recently, if you do take a Nooks and Crannies tour, you'll see the nursery upstairs on the 3rd floor. We recently acquired the original furniture from the nursery. So that's a very exciting acquisition for our curatorial team. And that furniture is being accessioned and will be on display soon. Uh-oh.
Okay, I'll start off with a question. When we visited, my wife, who takes care of our garden home, was really impressed with the of care that's taking care of these gardens. Can you talk a little bit about the volunteers who, as far as I could tell, they're out there constantly?
Absolutely. Well, we do have a horticultural team and they're not that large. So there may be only about maybe about 8 of them. So we have some full-time year-round horticultural staff. And then we do bring in some seasonals during the spring season, April through December. And then, yes, we do have a lot of volunteers that help, and they do everything from tending a specific garden. We actually have volunteers that help with turf maintenance and mowing and pruning and weeding. And the Akron Garden Club has been very involved in Stan Hewitt as well. And so they help out with our English garden.
Should do it. Yeah. Sorry about that. You mentioned the volunteers. What functions do volunteers serve for Stan Hewitt's programming and maintenance? And about how many do you have? Do you have a coordinator? What's involved?
Yes, thank you. That is a wonderful question. There are probably there's between 400 and 600 volunteers that help on the estate in lots of different capacities. A lot of individuals who are doing those hours throughout the year, but also a lot of those volunteers end up being group volunteers. So corporations who maybe have a service day, different groups that are, students looking for service hours. So there's so many different capacities at Stan Hewitt. We have volunteers that do help with my public programs. So for example, I had a very large Easter egg hunt for the children over Easter weekend. And I probably had 24 volunteers helping once again serve pancakes, right? So you're talking about pancake breakfast. They were doing everything from serving pancakes, hiding eggs, helping guests find their way. So they do help with events like that. But once again, the horticulture team, we have volunteers even in administration that help with envelope stuffing or different administrative duties that are required on the estate. And then we have an amazing group of volunteers. It's called the Auxiliary Board, and they are very philanthropic for the estate. I believe they've hit over $6 million raised in the past 50 some years for different restoration projects. But they are the ones who actually lead our entire Ohio Mart Artisan Festival, which is 4 days in October. So I work with the volunteers. They have committee chairs. One person is organizing the food and beverage, and one person is organizing a bakery tent that sells baked goods, and one person is organizing all the exhibitor. Well, not one person, there's a committee, but they're organizing the exhibitors that are on the estate. So they put in just alone so many different hours to put that event together in October. And we have volunteers that also help in the rentals department with the weddings. So volunteerism is absolutely an integral part of Stan Hewitt Hall. And we're so happy that they share that mission and the restoration and preservation of the estate and the stories with our visitors. I know that I myself could not do nearly what I do without their help in executing our programs and events.
I have a comment about your auto show coming up in Father's Day.
Yes.
This is one of the longest continuously operated classic car Cup of America auto shows in history. And it's just an amazing thing. I have an observation to make about that for those of us who have grandchildren. This is something I've observed over the years with antique cars. There's sort of a barbell there where you have the people who own the cars. Many of them are older people. And then there's the people in the middle, younger ages, that don't have any much interest in it at all. And then you find the younger kids. I'm talking about grandchildren. There's something about a grandchild and an old car that just seems to bring something out. And so I encourage you, the people who are in our Rotary Club, if you have some grandchildren, take them to the car show. You will find absolutely fascinating the look on their face and the expressions they have about looking at these old cars. And I just think it's great. Again, congratulations for keeping that.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that story. Yes, I will say that Father's Day car show, seeing the families there and the generations, as you mentioned, is really incredible. And I'm always in awe when I work with the folks. And if you do have a classic antique or collector car and you'd like to bring it, you can register that with the Ohio Region Classic Car Club of America, and they are doing those registrations now through June 1st. So if you have a car that you'd like to display at Stan Hewitt and be part of that, you can do that as well.
This is indeed a beautiful setting for weddings. Can you tell us about how many are scheduled and what's the calendar look like for this year?
Oh my goodness. Our rentals team has, they have exceeded their goal. I believe there's already 70 weddings scheduled at the estate this year. And I think they have about 35 receptions. So often on the weekends, if you come to visit on a Saturday, there will be times where you're asked to stay away from that Birch Tree LA. They'll do weddings at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then often 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock if they're doing the reception as well at Stan Hewitt. Weddings can be very small, micro weddings, maybe 10 people. They can also be larger weddings, about 200. So the bride and groom often, in addition to that Birch Tree LA, I would say the West Terrace is a very popular spot. They can set up their chairs there and actually get married on the steps of the manor house. The Dell is another popular spot. So our team works very hard to set up all the chairs, look at those rain plans. We do have a rain chapel tent on the estate. So sometimes it does have to get moved into there. I know they'll be watching the weather this weekend, but an absolutely amazing experience. And it is fun to see those brides and bridal parties being transported across the estate to their location. So yes, they're going to be very busy this year. Very busy.
Is this also a place where seniors can get senior photos? You know, do people come out just to take photos?
They do. So once again, they work through our rentals team for those staged photography sessions with professional photographers. So, you know, while guests are welcome to take their own images on the estate while they're there with their camera, if it is a professional shoot, then it does have to be scheduled, and it's a paid experience through our rentals team. So they come for senior photos, family photos. We've actually had furniture companies come and do advertising photo shoots at the estate. So that's something interesting to see as well. But yes, I think the pictures are great. I will say back during the pandemic, I don't know if many of you knew this, but when the parks were being overrun because everything was closed, Stan Hewitt actually opened its doors in April. We were free to the public from April through probably the end of June. And just the outdoor grounds, none of the buildings were open to explore. But I will say when I was there, we serviced probably 20,000 people, I think, in those couple of months. And a lot of people who had the opportunity to come to Stan Hewitt who maybe had never been there before. But I will say that it was quite an amazing experience just to see the different graduation pictures that came that year as well. So people looking for a place because, you know, school was kind of strange as well with everything being shut down.
Are there other amenities available at the site? I'm thinking specifically gift shop or
thank you, Marilyn.
Cafe, anything like that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have a gift shop on site. We call it Molly's Shop. Molly was the name of the draft horse that lived in the stables at the estate. And so the cafe is actually located in the carriage house where the stables were. And then attached to that is Molly's Shop. So that is a gift shop available with some souvenir purchases. We also have Gate Lodge memorabilia. I know that when we celebrate Founder's Day, a lot of people will come and want to purchase memorabilia with the Gate Lodge for that experience and the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. So Stan Hewitt and Akron gifts, lots of amazing little trinkets during Christmas time as well. So it's like a little boutique shop. So we have that available. They even do boxed lunches. So I know when people come out to see Shakespeare, sometimes they might want to get a boxed lunch meal picnic. So they can do that. And then once again, we have, there's the opportunity to self-guide the estate, but we also have guided experiences. So I keep talking about that Nooks and Crannies tour because it is so popular to see kind of the back of house spaces that you don't normally see on a regular tour of the house. But there are some guided tours of the house, of the gardens, and then it's called the Grand Estate Tour, where it's a longer tour because you do get to experience both. So those options are all available.
So I believe you have a website that people can go to.
Yes, thank you. Our website is
In fact, it's being shared right now.
Oh, yay, look at that. That's our educator, Mike, with all his youth. We have a lot of family programs too, and child programs. Some of them are drop-in where they can just come that day. Others are a registered experience, but yes, stanhewitt.org. So once again, Hywet, but it's pronounced Hewitt in Old English. So we have all our programs and events scheduled on there, the information about any rentals. We do have corporate parties or dinners. I was mentioning before, we're going to do a neat experience where you could actually do dinner before the Shakespeare performance. So you can have a plated dinner, and then that ticket will include a ticket to the show as well.
I wanted to note that you are supporting our gala with two one-day tickets, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll be sure to share that with my colleague, who I know was probably the one who sent you those tickets. So that's great that we can support each other for certain.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I appreciated your Aristotle quote as well. So that was very apropos for today. So I do thank you all for your time, and I look forward to visiting you or visiting with you. Make sure you come say hello when you visit the estate and visit the gardens.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for an enlightening program this morning. A little bit of history. I'm going back to Marilyn's tenure as when she was president. In 1919, Carl Butler, on his deathbed, deeded his family estate to the Boy Scouts of America, which is now known as Camp Manitowoc Scout Reservation. There was only one provision in his will, was that we had to raise, the Boy Scouts had to raise $100,000 to guarantee that they could preserve the property. Well, everybody, those who are historians, know that shortly after 1919, the economy went in the tank. And it was the Cyberline family and the Firestone family and the Goodrich family that together, to the penny, put together $100,000 to preserve the Manitowoc Scout Reservation. And copies of those checks, if you're ever out at Camp Manitowoc and want to go into the Manitowoc Museum, there are copies of those 3 checks that add up to the penny, $100,000. And there was some one-upsmanship. The Cyberlines won, and they contributed the most, so that they could say that they contributed the most to the campaign. So trust me, there's a lot of Manitowoc history between the Goodyears and the Goodyear Company and the Firestone Company. So just a little bit of how intricate that family has been to our area and what they've done for the young people in our area. One other thing is, please save the night of June 29th on your calendar. We will be having our Changing of the Guard dinner. More information on that's to come, but please put that on your calendar for Wednesday, June 29th. We will not have a regular club meeting that day. We'll just be having our changing of the guard dinner on June 29th. And we'll be getting more information out to all of you on that. So we have a Rotabuck raffle. It is at $9. But more importantly, the jackpot is up to $434. All of which there's plenty of youth charitable organizations that would be happy to take that from you. Or any other charity would be. So, or a gala committee or our gala would be happy to take that from you too. Marilyn's in, I saw her buy tickets. So I think I'm just gonna pull a ticket here because I am not in. So I'm mixing up the tickets good because I heard there was strategy, putting them in late or putting them in early or those kind of things. So there's the ticket. It fell out of the basket. So the winning ticket is 717-498. 717-498. Jay Yard. Is that 2 weeks in a row like that, Jay? All right. Okay. All right. Well, the odds are getting better and better and better, Jay. Well, here's the envelope. All right. The black marble is in there. Oh, not quite. I did. So the pot will continue to grow. There are only 16 marbles left in the jar, so odds are going to continue to increase as we do that. Reminder again about the gala or auction and gala coming up on the May 20th. So get your items in. As a reminder, when all of us joined, we all agreed that we would buy at least 2 tickets to the gala. So even if you're busy on the night of the 20th, we have a commitment to buy at least 2 tickets, give them back to Marilyn, or she can get or the committee so that they can get others to go. But we all made that commitment to purchase at least 2 tickets to the auction. And it couldn't be the ending of one of my Rotary meetings without our weekly dad joke. So my neighbors saw me kneeling down in my garden and asked me what I was doing. I told them that I was putting all my plants in alphabetical order. He replied, "Really? I don't know how you find the time." I told him it's right next to the sage.
Before we totally close off, we had a question online from Mike Swain about what Jamie needed for the high school. So maybe.
Yes, Jamie is in the back. He's got packets, those kind of things. So so as soon as your meeting's concluded, go back and see Jamie. He's got the information on the 13th of May that they need for the service learning.
And I can also leave some packets with Pat. So if you're not able to be here, or if you're not here today, you can pick them up from Pat or arrange that. We also have extra packets at the high school that we can make available for anybody. But I'll be back here to answer any questions people have. And I have packets for you if you are interested.